In order to defeat these monsters, Raul and his team of adventurers work together. They just needed this one last mission and they'll be recognized as true adventurers and will go save the world. But bad news came. The Demon King has already been defeated and the world is saved. With nothing left to do, Raul had to work as a salesperson to earn a living. He was showing some customers to a washing machine, but they were scared off and left. Nova grinned at Raul. There were still tons of expenses to pay, and if things kept going like the way they are, his salary won't go any higher. A bunch of customers suddenly burst in, wanted to buy a limited product, leaving Raul and Nova struggling to keep up. When another customer arrived, Raul presumed the customer wanted the limited product, but he tells them that the item was sold out. Nova was perplexed as to why so many customers wanted to buy that specific item. Raul directs her attention to the TV, where the news reports that the manufacturing business for that product has filed for bankruptcy, so all that was left was the item in the stores. The customer was still standing in front of them and called out again, requesting to speak to the manager. A resume was then slammed onto the counter, with deadly eyes looking at Raul. The manager then shows up and takes the customer away for an interview. They left their resume on the counter, so Raul got to look through it and saw something worrying, so he barged into the manager's office to warn her. This girl is Fino. She is the daughter of the previous Demon King. However, the manager was unconcerned and nonetheless hired Fino. As a superior, Raul must instruct Fino on how to operate the store, but felt powerless. Fino squinted at the television, proudly displaying that she too had something similar in her room. Raul then tells Fino to sweep the floors, before explaining that since the Demon King's defeat 2 years ago, he had to drop his aspirations of being a hero and become an ordinary salesperson. Back to the present, due to Fino wearing a hood, she scares off all the customers, so Raul demands her to remove her hood. Fino puts down her hood, revealing her long hair and nearly feminine appearance. But then an old man entered the store. He approached Nova and flicked her skirt up. Fino thought he was a bad guy and was about to go pick a fight with him when he tells her that he was just buying this light bulb. After this, Fino assumed that this was how normal humans communicated, so she turns her ass around for Raul to pat. While Raul was eating lunch, he was still unsure as to why he was required to instruct the young Demon King. When Lam, an employee at the convenience store he usually eats at, comes to joke with him. Then her superior, Elsa, tells Lam to go check inventory so that she has some time to ask Raul for his remarks on the latest model appliance, but his store hasn't got this one in stock yet, so he can't help her. She still thanks Raul and leaves to get back to work, not before giving him a salad for free. Back at the store, Raul continued to teach Fino while they are being watched by the manager. She was confident that he could pull it off. Raul already knew the solution to Fino's difficulty, and he encouraged Fino to attempt to correct it. But it didn't work, and all Raul could do was hand Fino a manual on being an employee. Raul then takes Fino upstairs where all the returned products are stored, and she was amazed that there was more stuff here than in her father's room. Raul warned Fino not to touch anything, but she's an idiot, so she touched an appliance, causing it to short circuit and pushes her away with water, knocking her out. Raul had to carry Fino into the employee's room and wanted to undress her so he could change her into some dry clothes, but Raul was taken aback when he discovers that Fino is actually a girl. Fino too awoke screaming. Fino thought Raul was some kind of pervert, but after hearing his explanation, she understands that he was just trying to help her. At the end of the day, Fino finally got her store uniform, and clearly she is a female with no doubt about it. This time, Fino made a concerted effort to act like a normal person and thank people around her. Raul was returning home from work, but saw the lights of the employee room were still on. When he came to check, he found Fino in her birthday suit washing her hair in the sink. She had nowhere to stay, so she was permitted by the manager to stay here for a while. Raul, seeing how hopeless Fino is washing her hair with dish soap, had to come in and help her wash and dry her hair properly. Fino's admiration for humanity was fascinating. He would never have witnessed this had her father not died, and Fino was fortunate to meet Raul. Raul sighed as he looked at Fino. His life was better now that Fino was here. Episode 2. When Raul was heading off to work, he got to talk to his neighbor who was channeling energy into a magic storage to power his appliances. Nowadays, magic is highly popular, and magic items will one day be needed in everyday life. Raul thought that by then, his store would be packed. When he got to his store and went inside the employee's room to get ready for work, he immediately ran back out when he sees Fino sleeping naked. Later, Fino was practicing her lines to greet customers and sell items, but she had no clue about how consumers pay for these items. Raul explains to her how to greet customers and direct them to where they needed to go, when Visor, the manager's assistant, summoned these two inside the employees' room. The display hairdryer had been broken because yesterday they used it. Raul apologized quickly for his mistake, and Visor quickly forgave him. When Visor slid his hand over the item, a line of magic code appeared. Visor was previously their manager and was a magical engineer, which fascinated Fino, but Visor told her not to be so because that profession is a living hell. If it hadn't been for their current manager, Sierra's management, that saved him. Meanwhile, Elsa was cleaning the convenience store entrance when a familiar girl strolled in. Raul was instructing Fino on the common phrases that salespeople needed to know, but she couldn't even get one right. Raul had no choice but to take Fino's hand and wrote the 8 common phrases onto her hand and hoped that she would remember to learn them. When he was outside sweeping leaves, a giant bee flew in. He was about to use his signature move to defeat it when he remembered the day that he failed to apply for a job, and in his attempts at training were futile. Raul then lets the bee fly away and was heading back inside when he meets an old member from his adventurer group, All. She had thought that Raul went out to become a hero, having no idea that Raul was working at a magic item store. Raul felt ashamed of himself and wanted to leave, but All wanted to know what happened to him these past 2 years. He didn't want to quit being a hero, but the news shocked him so much that he didn't leave his house for 6 months. By the time he did, all the equipment shops were all gone. Raul then went to so many interviews, and this was the only place that hired him. All was dissatisfied with Raul, and so she leaves. Meanwhile, Fino is having trouble with learning all these phrases, when a robber enters the store demanding money, but because Fino is sort of a dunce, so she thought he was a normal customer. Raul was out at the convenience store depressed and had no appetite for lunch, where Lamb continued to tease him. Fino wanted to please this non-suspicious customer, so she asked where they placed their money, but he wasn't there, so she had to deal with this robber by herself. Fino continued to greet the bandit, but by a sequence of random events, Fino managed to knock the robber out for a little bit and scaring him with her greetings. Raul then walked in and thought that this guy is a customer and tried to calm the robber down, at which point he violently took up his axe and lashed out. After hearing Raul's explanation, Fino proceeded to kick the robber in the face. When he was not paying attention, Raul disarmed the thief of his weapon. Fino, using her expert threatening skills, made the robber faint from fear. A customer then walked in. Seeing this situation, she screamed out in fright. This incident is then made clear to the manager, who was equally taken aback when a robbery occurred. Nonetheless, she congratulated Fino and Raul on their achievements. Raul then requested permission to leave for the day because he has to meet up with some old friends. Raul spent the evening with his group of old adventure friends, who were curious about his career, which he didn't hide that he was a typical salaried worker. When he asked them about their professions, he was taken aback because these two still desired to be heroes. Fino was still sleeping on the couch when Raul arrived at the store. Fino had clearly made a sincere effort based on the books on the table that were filled with phrases related to guest care. Fino then opened her eyes when she hears Raul's voice. She requested that Raul check on her greetings. Fino tried her best to say all 8 phrases without looking at her hand for hints, and finally succeeded. Raul rubbed her head encouragingly. He assured himself that if the Demon King's daughter had put in this much effort, any other employed hero could carry on his goal. Episode 3. Fino was still sleeping when her alarm goes off. Can't endure this ear torture any longer, Raul comes running into Fino's room to demand her to turn off her alarm, which he discovers that she is naked again. However, Fino didn't mind. Together the two headed to the store. Raul thought Fino was odd that she could sleep through that annoying alarm. The manager had just given her some new clothes. However, the shirt that Raul gave her to wear is really nice too. She even recognizes Raul's scent. When they get to the shop, it is explained that Sierra had rented an apartment room next to Raul's so Fino can properly live in, instead of sleeping in the employee's room. With Raul next door to Fino, Sierra was not worried for her well-being. Sierra had an important meeting at the company, so she wished them luck before departing with Visor. Later, Raul declined Fino's poster advertising for a washing machine because it was too bloody. While the two were arguing about the poster, a customer came in and asked if they can fix her old fan. Raul was unsure if he can fix it, but because of Fino's request to mend it, he gave it a shot. When he was about to try and unscrew something, someone comes in and takes away Raw's screwdriver. Not knowing who this was, Fino gets in a battle stance. But Raw explains that this is Lore. She also works here like Fino, just that she is responsible for transportation and maintenance of magic items at people's homes, so she is rarely here. Lore was thanked by the lady, which made Fino very happy. At the company, customers' evaluation of Sierra's store is very high, but revenue was still kinda low. Gil, her boss, expected Sierra to put in more effort. Raw has taken Fino to the convenience store that he frequents and also introduces her to Elsa, and Elsa greeted them enthusiastically. She encouraged Fino to try out the fried chicken at the shop. With her agreeing, Elsa tells Lamb to get the fried chicken. As Raw introduces Fino to her, Lamb suddenly gets on edge and just ignores Fino. A bit later, while everyone in the store is doing their jobs, All, now we know is actually Irie, comes to the store to see Raw. He had no idea why she had arrived, but now that she was a customer, Raw felt obligated to greet and treat her like one. Fino comes over, and analyzing the situation, she thought Irie was here to make a complaint, and was ready to deal with her accordingly, when Raw intervened. Suddenly, a machine arrived, which they all opened it to discover was an air purifier. Raw mistook this for a brand new machine that needed to be sold. Out of nowhere, Elsa arrives to check out this new item, but had no idea how to utilize this either. Elsa switched it on, and nothing happened. While Fino just needed to touch it, and all of them are blown away. A dark mist came out of the machine, and what came after are multiple arms that were able to capture Elsa. Fino was overjoyed that human technology can do this, when Nova also gets caught. Raul hastily instructed Fino to shut it down, but she was unable to do so. Raul tried to attack it using a broom, but its arms just grew right back. Irie came over to see what's going on when the arms started attacking her, but with just her bare hands, she fends off the attack. Lawyer then appeared, believing that the machine was leaking magic. The only way to defeat it was to turn it off. But then she was caught as well. This was getting out of hand, so Irie had to help and freed all the girls, telling them to get out of here. Raul tells Irie to leave as well, but she was confident that she can handle this monster until her broom weapon disintegrates. Irie was then apprehended. Seeing that the customer being in danger, Fino rushed in to save her. Fino believed that in the customer satisfaction manual, employees are required to defend customers at no matter what. Raul then dashed inside the employee's room and finds his sword. Fino was being strangled by one of the arms when Raul showed up and blasted away the arms. It had been a long time since he has felt such motivation. But it wasn't finished yet. Irie gets captured again, and Raul experienced a severe headache. He wanted Fino to aid him with some sort of magic, but she couldn't. Irie tells the two about the machine's flaw, and this time, Fino and Raul work together. Fino distracted the arms, while Raul gets behind the machine, and with just one swing, he destroys all the arms, giving Fino the chance to turn off the machine. Raul chuckled joyously, knowing that he could still be a hero. Fino came in and hugged Raul. She was glad to be part of this, and seeing Irie staring at Raul quickly let go of Fino. Irie then went on to get to know Fino. Episode 4. Fino was becoming increasingly adept at customer service. However, when it came to selling items, her way of describing things are a bit too brutal, so she scares off most of her customers. Elsa's store was understaffed, so she turned to Raul for assistance. Manager Sierra gladly consented. She was about to take the uniform and go change when Visor stopped her. She only agreed because she wanted to wear this cute uniform. With no other choice, Sierra turned to Fino, but she refused because she only wanted to work at his store. But when Sierra gave the command, Fino had no choice but to obey. At the convenience store, Fino introduced clients to fast food as if it was their last meal. Elsa had to have a little talk to her to explain. Lamb used to say the weird things on her first day too. Elsa thought that Fino is also a fan of horror movies, so she tells her not to talk about her interests in front of customers. Fino is taking orders while Raul ran out of stories to share with Nova. He noticed that she was wearing new earrings. When Fino had to heat up a meal for the customer, she hesitated because she thought that she'll break the machine like before. But she believed in herself and pressed the button, and it didn't explode. Next was Elsa teaching Fino how to pack up items for customers. Raul was perplexed that Nova wasn't angry when the old man came over and rubbed her behind again. Nova teased the old man for doing it so the old man would buy more items. Besides, if Raul liked to, she was willing to allow Raul to touch her. Raul blushed embarrassingly. Visor hinted that he didn't want Raw to complicate his business with lawsuits. Raw also didn't dare to touch Fino. At lunchtime, Raw dashed over to Fino's side. He was taken aback by how much better she had gotten. When it was time for his items to be rung up, Fino needed to heat up his food. Seeing this, Raw was shocked, but she did just fine. As he sat down to eat, Elsa asked if he was worried about Fino, which he declined. Raw had no idea why the food was so excellent. Elsa taunted, saying that it was made by Fino. Later, Elsa was teaching Fino how to make oden. Fino thinks that the soup is missing some color, so she threw in a bunch of stuff and dubbed it her secret formula. Lamb tried it first, since Elsa was hesitant to eat, and complimented that it tasted surprisingly good. Elsa then dared to sample it, and she admired the taste. However, Lamb did not believe it was a retail item. Fino didn't believe so, but after Lamb explained the value of uniqueness, she understood. Meanwhile, Raw can't stop thinking about Nova's behind. Nova got so close to Raw that he didn't know what to say. Irie ran into Fino at the store and complimented her on her great uniform. Fino was confident since Raw had complimented her as well. Without Fino, Raw was at a loss of words. Nova was shocked when he complimented her on her lovely earrings, because they had so far just discussed work. And she thinks that Raw has changed a bit. Fino was astounded by Elsa's knowledge, and when she demonstrated how to run the coffee maker to her, she aspired to be just as knowledgeable as her. Lamb suggested Fino to work here with them, but she declined, since Raw was waiting for her, and she had to get back. Fino realized that humans weren't as frightening as their parents had claimed. When Fino returned to the store, she brought the secret formula oden back for everyone to enjoy. Just after a day, Fino has changed so much, and Raw complimented her on a good day's work. Raw was also slightly relieved. Episode 5. Sierra sighed as she sat reading a newspaper. That day, the store was abnormally vacant. Raw could see that too. Visor desperately clutched to Raw since he hadn't seen customers all day. Fino devised a plan to lure in more customers. Raw was surprised and wanted to hear her plan, but as soon as she said she wanted to put a poisoned marsh in front of the store, he immediately rejected her. Currently, the old man was poisoned, and he's at Elsa's store. Taking his opportunity, he touches Lamb's thighs, which she responded with her fury. Visor was freaking out on how to get more customers, so he had to resort to his trump card, which is telling Fino to dress provocatively and go around the city, advertising the store. Until Sierra stopped by to halt his plan. She also has the reason why there is a vacancy of customers today. A new magic item store just opened and was having a sale, so that's why no one came in today. Sierra called an emergency meeting at a restaurant while looking through the prices of this new store. Raw supported their shop, and it's believed that they can get over this problem. Sierra highly praised his character, but Raw didn't have a plan to actually increase their sales. Sierra was interested in hearing Fino's thoughts. Fino wanted to place a sacrificial evil god in their store, and sacrifice someone to it. Raw opposed this ridiculous idea, but the majority agreed to sacrifice Visor. Scared, Visor came up with an idea to investigate that store. So Sierra told Fino and Raw to investigate, but had to act like normal people, like they are couples going on a date. Raw was laying in his bed, but he can't get the image of Fino in revealing clothing out of his mind. Then he hears a knock on his door from Fino. When he answered, he was greeted by a golem. Since Fino discovered this garment in the shed, she was certain that no one would recognize that she is a Leon employee. The two then appeared at the store the following day, and the employees gave them a warm welcome. Together they kept track of the opening time. Irie was also working here, and she was wearing a bunny costume, hoping no one would notice her. Raw was then separated from Fino when she got bumped by the crowd. They entered the building successfully and managed to find each other again. The two then made their way to the terrace where free food and drinks are being given out. Fino wanted to try some food, so she crawled on the floor to reach her destination. Elsa then approached Raw, patting him on the shoulders as she wanted to tease him. Lamb also arrives, as an employee introduced a product to her and said her name wrong. Lamb struck him in the family jewels. Elsa found the magic item he introduced intriguing, so he yanked him away. Raw was then reminded by Elsa to go out with her next time. Leon's staff was watching Raw and Fino from the TV reporters when Gil entered the store. Raw's face reddened when Fino took his hand. Elsa taught Fino this, and with it, no one would be able to identify them. When Raw noticed an elderly woman having trouble, he immediately went back to ask and guided her to where she wanted to go. Fino pondered why no one was assisting the old lady after seeing staff members everywhere. Raw explained that each staff at a large chain of business like Amada has a designated area and could only interact with customers there. Meanwhile, Sierra's management faced a serious problem because Amada's new store is attracting all the customers, and they might have to close down the store. Raw accompanied Fino as she had a look at a camera. Raw desired to have a camera that can record video, but he did not purchase one despite the staff's enthusiastic recommendations. He gave Raw his business card, and the two of them headed to the rooftop to observe the store's opening ceremony. Fino encircled Raw's arms like a real girlfriend. When he accidentally bumped into Irie, who was welcoming guests behind him, he quickly backed away. Episode 6. Raw wanted an explanation to why Irie was here and dressed like this, but she only replied that she was merely a security guard. Uncertain, Raw peered at Irie's attire, wondering where is her defense weapon. Fino concluded it must be concealed in her chest. She couldn't take the suspense any longer, so she finally comes clean. After graduating, she took up the highest paying job, but couldn't endure 3 months, so she has to work here, where she is obligated to wear these clothes because management demanded it. To survive, she acquired money. Meanwhile, Visor and Sierra came up with a plan B. If they couldn't outbid Amada, the store would close. They had the intentions of copying Amada's discount strategy. Irie sternly warned Raw about coming here to snoop on people. Fino was holding Raw's hand, which upsets Irie. Irie became envious when Fino claimed to be Raw's girlfriend. Raw clarified that it was only an act. Fino asked Irie to give them a tour while she was still present, taking advantage of the occasion. Irie had to concur. They played and went around the store while having fun. When Raw was alone, Irie wanted to ask him something. She couldn't figure out where the old Raw was. When a pervert touched Irie, Fino and Raw were there to help her. But then, the camera consultant and the store's manager approached. They were previously aware that Raw and Fino worked at Leon's store. Meanwhile, Sierra's group visited the TV manufacturing facility of Amada. There were numerous little monsters working without pay, but their drawback was that they expired pretty quickly. The Amada staff, though, was unconcerned. The Visor crew was able to enter and plainly witness the differences while Raw was speaking to the Amada manager and the presenting staff. The manager laughed and thought that Leon and other small business owners weren't worth the competition. In Raw's opinion, he would defeat them because he believed in justice and his team. The two then returned to Leon. Sierra had a conference for Raw since he had dared to challenge Amada. Now they had to figure out a way to deal with them. The following morning, Raw and Fino left the store to distribute discount flyers while dressed in peculiar outfits. Raw attempted to pass out flyers, but no one wanted to take them. And Fino was no help because her weird tendencies just scared people off. But when Amada drove around advertising themselves, people flocked to them to get pamphlets. As Raw was getting ready to depart after picking up Fino, he ran into the elderly woman he had assisted the other day. The old woman sought his guidance after discovering that he was a staff member at Leon's magic item shop. Raw showed the lady the items he recommends, and when she bought it, Raw even requested Laura to assemble the air conditioner, but she has some business elsewhere. Because the client was waiting, Raw decided to help Laura, while she can go help the lady. Fino then accompanied Raw to the sweet shop. According to Raw, a lot of people are born without magic, so their store has a service for giving out magic so other people can use it. When Fino got to the store, she proceeded to annoy Raw with her childish antics. At the old woman's house, Laura was about to come in and install her appliance when she observed that Amada's staff members were also here. Raw tried to replenish the magic storage, but it wouldn't stay full. Fino wanted to give it a try, but when she did, something leaked out. It was a slime that can eat magic. It then crawled onto her arm because she has all the magic energy it needs. Fino, being so scared, overloaded the slime with magic, causing it to explode. With that pest dealt with, the machine was functioning normally. The shop owner gave them some beverages as thanks for their hard work. Then she received a call from Lore, who wanted to see Raw.